Justin Verlander is going to – he's a free agent.
Is he?
Yeah, he's free. He's free. He's free to sign with anybody that he wants. Ken Rosenthal says the Mets could be interested. I didn't realize deGrom was 34, 35 years old, by the way. I didn't realize he was up there that age. Like I was reading that this morning. I was like, I didn't realize he was in his mid-30s. But the Mets –
He's an injury waiting to happen.
Oh, yeah. So maybe Verlander is too. Who knows? The Dodgers apparently kicking the tires. The Yankees kicking the tires. The Astros kicking the tires. Look, those were the usual suspects, we thought, right?
See what you did there.
The Astros, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, maybe a wild card team. Look, I think it's very obvious how Jim Crane is treating this, which Justin Verlander told MLB Network when he won the Cy Young, that he has not talked to Jim Crane since the last time he talked to him.
Well, that spells it all out.
What? He told the media that he's not talked to Jim Crane since the last time he talked to him.
I would hope that Jim Crane talked to him the day after they won the World Series, like he told Mark Berman he was going to talk to him the day after, because he pointed out that they're tight, they talk, and
maybe there was a more recent time that he talked to him.
See where he's
maybe
at.
That was the least recent time that he talked to him. I haven't talked to Brendan since the last time I talked to him. Blankers, I haven't talked to you since the last time I talked to you.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think it's very clear how Crane is handling this. I think it's exactly how they handled it last year. Justin, we want you back. Go test the market. Tell us what the high contract is. Come back to us, and I'll tell you if I match it or not. I think it's abundantly clear.
This is a very popular tactic, whether you're best friends with the owner or not, that Daryl Morey used to do all the time. If you remember the Clint Capella deal.
Oh, yeah.
Clint Capella and his agent kept saying he was a max player, and they basically said, hey, we love you, Clint. Go out and show us where you're going to get a max offer, and we'll talk. And he never got a max offer. And then he was upset that the Rockets wouldn't have his back and give him a max contract. And Daryl was, savvy enough to basically say, look, if you can find me a team or two. And I was thinking about this morning, and I was talking over at the gym with a buddy of mine that's a Yankee fan that couldn't believe that Judge got this massive offer. And I said, I don't understand how so many teams are basically wrapping up so much money. Like, if the Mets let deGrom get away, they'd rather have Verlander. But if he wants Scherzer-type money, and you already have Scherzer on your roster at 43, and you go at least in that ballpark or more with Verlander, each guy's pitching every fifth day, and you're wrapping up $88 million in salary. That's ridiculous.
And for bodies that are kind of alike, power righties that are old and that have had some injuries over the years. Scherzer
struggled all last year with injuries.
It's like people that talk about Verlander, and we want to ask you this question, 713-780-ESPN. If Justin Verlander does indeed leave, which I would still have the Astros as the betting favorite to land Justin Verlander. I haven't looked up the odds.
High?
I think that they're the betting favorite, but I would say it's less than 50%.
Last I saw, they were fourth or fifth.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I was going to say I would think, if I'm handicapping it, or at least like my prediction, I would have Astros higher than anybody else, but I would have them less than a 50% chance to land them, if that makes any sense. Like, they wouldn't be the majority chance, but they would have more of a chance than any other team. That's random handicapping, which I guess we just learned is flawed.
I think the other thing would be at what price, right? Because I think because winning is so important to his end game in terms of where he finishes in terms of the history of baseball too. He's got to go to a winner, but it seems like the majority of the teams involved, the Phillies are throwing their hat in the ring, so to speak. They want to be in on it. But even if the Phillies, who had the Cinderella story of last season, and they have a good roster, but if the Phillies are involved along with the Dodgers, Mets, Yankees type teams, and the Astros, well, then he gets what he wants. He's going to play for a winner. Now I'm really comfortable, and I like the fact that we can relax and be ourselves in Houston as opposed to all the attention we would get in a major market like L.A. or New York. What's that worth to you? Are you willing to take less to be a part of a winner for more, a team that you personally called a dynasty? And I don't think so. I think at the end of the day, he does a great job of playing the media, but the important thing is to Justin Verlander is Justin Verlander, his stats, his all-time rankings, and his money. And he knows this is his last chance to cash in on a monster deal. He earned it with a Cy Young last year. He's going to go out and get the top dollar.
I don't blame him either. Like, if I'm in his shoes, I might take pretty close to top dollar. Like, I would go find the best deal. I would tell Jim Crane this is what it is, and I hope that you match it because I really want to play for you. I would handle it that exact same way.
And you know what, Jeremy? Here's the thing.
JB, same dude, pretty much.
The way most, without question, the easiest way to break this down for most players is if you're at this point in your career and you can pick anywhere you want to go. If you haven't won a ring yet, then there's a factor that's going to mean a lot because to your legacy, you want to walk out saying, I won one. I know what it feels like. I got a ring. Check that off the box. See Patrick Ewing and Charles Barkley and all the guys that as great of a careers as they've had, they get criticized for that one thing. So if you're late in your career and you can pick anywhere, you're probably, if you haven't won one yet, that's going to factor in. But because he's won two and he's done. And there's some things he still has left to do. Winning and money are going to be the top two things because he's already been there, done that on the World Series thing.
The funny thing to me is always like, oh, yeah, he's going to repeat what he just did this past year. I mean, that'd be great if he does, but if you just look at the last 3 years, he hasn't finished 2 of the last 3 years. He's pitched in 1 game prior to this season. But if he does leave, what is the worst landing spot for Justin Verlander as an Astro fan? 713-780-ESPN, 713-780-3776. I would start by saying, Blankers, I would get rid of half of the equation. I don't want him to be in the American League. If he goes to the National League, that's fine. Now, there's some teams in the National League we can talk about, but I do not want Justin Verlander in the American League if he leaves the Houston Astros.
I totally agree with that. And obviously, you wouldn't. The first place you start with is the Yankees because you're tired of seeing, though you've still had the upper hand and you've still been their daddy, you get tired of seeing the Yankees get better by taking your players. And you'd have to see him a lot. You'd probably have to see him in big games, and it would amp up everything even more. And so I would say New York is the first destination I could do without it. New York Yankees. I don't mind if he goes to the National League, like you said. I don't mind if he goes to the Mets. That's fine because then they got to get there first. But I don't want to see him as regularly as you would see him, and probably in a big game scenario in a Yankees uniform.
Yeah, that to me is probably the top one. That's the one landing spot where I would not want Justin Verlander over all of the others. I've seen some people on Twitter and things like that say the Dodgers. Like, the Dodgers are probably pretty high on that list, but there's probably, let's say, 2 or 3 American League teams I'd rather not see him on either. Like, I don't want to see him at the Yankees because the Yankees, very likely, you're looking at an ALCS series. I want to like Justin Verlander, Like, even if it's a World Series matchup, like, okay, it's a World Series. Like, I can still like Justin Verlander even if he's pitching against the Astros in the World Series. But in ALCS with the hated Yankees, I'm going to dislike Justin Verlander. I want to be in a position where I like Justin Verlander. So I don't want him to end up with the Yankees. I don't think the Rangers are a threat, one, to sign him, 2, to be competitive, even if they do sign him. But I don't want him to go the Nolan Ryan route. Like, I don't want him to be a Texas Ranger after he had some of the best years of his career with the Houston Astros. So I put both of those teams ahead of the Dodgers. I might even put the Angels ahead of the Dodgers. Maybe even the Mariners, just because I don't want to see him in the division and see him 5 times a year. If
he goes to the Angels, he's guaranteed to break down, right?
Because of the Angel halo effect?
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. I just don't want to see him in the division. I don't want to see him in the league. I don't want to face him in an ALCS, not because I'm like terrified of facing Justin Verlander in the playoffs. I just want to like Justin Verlander. So there's 3 or 4 American League teams that I rather he not end up on, even before the Dodgers. Now, in the National League, the Dodgers are at the top of the list. Of all the National League teams, I do not want him to be a Los Angeles Dodger because, again, the like factor. Like, if he goes to LA, it's going to be very hard to like Justin Verlander. If he goes to the Mets, cool, I'll root for Justin Verlander. If he goes to the Cubs, cool, I'll root for Justin Verlander. The Dodgers, the Yankees, and pretty much every American League West team, I do not want to see employ Justin Verlander.
I'm with you. Look, I think that in looking at it, to me, I can live with all the National League teams, no matter how good they are, even the Dodgers, because of the fact that the Dodgers have proven one thing. They are the absolute masters of the regular season. And when it comes to the playoffs, it's a totally different story where you probably aren't going to see Justin Verlander. True. So my bigger concerns would be either rivals like the Yankees or up-and-comers that are trying to keep up with you and be where you're at, which would be, teams like the Mariners, teams like the Blue Jays, teams that are on the coming up that could be very much benefiting from a Justin Verlander, putting him on a level that you don't need to see right now while you're in your heyday of your run.
Is there any small part of you guys that goes, if he goes to the NL and we run into him in the World Series, cool?
Yeah.
Because of his World Series struggles.
Except for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are the only team in that conversation I would say no to. If it's the Mets, Astros, Mets, Verlander on the mound, that's pretty cool. That's a cool story. Now I'm going to hope he loses that game.
Well, I mean, based on his World Series record, I'm going to look forward to a World Series matchup with
Is there a
Justin
part of you
Verlander.
that goes like, I like this?
Oh, we get a... not really.
I kind of lean no as well, but I think it's a question to be asked.
Yeah, not really for me. Not really for me. But there's only if there's only one team in the National League that if he went to, that I wouldn't be pulling for him to reach the World Series. Like any other national team he went to, unless Carlos Correa goes to another National League team, I would be pulling for those guys and for those teams to have success. If it's the Dodgers, I can't do that.